Hey, KaziQ users, I'm Andrew. On this video, we're going to discuss a few features and best practices to help you better understand how you can most efficiently use KaziQ for business development. Today, we'll take a look at how you can use KaziQ to create target market searches, export lists in bulk, research organizations in depth, find personnel and contact information, and conduct market research. Let's get started. First, let's discuss how you can use KaziQ to create target market searches. You'll notice we're starting off in the KaziQ dashboard. This is the first page that you'll see when you access your KaziQ account. To create your target market searches, you do need to be in the KaziQ organization search interface. There are a few different ways to access the search interface from your dashboard. First, you can get into the search interface by selecting this search icon within your navigation bar and clicking New Organization Search. You can also select this New Organization Search button here, and the Start New Organization Search with Filters link under the Smart Search box will take you to the search interface as well. Any three of those options will get you to where you need to go. I'm going to select New Organization Search here on the right. So we're now in the KaziQ Organization Search interface. When we start a new search in KaziQ, we're going to start off with all of the nonprofit records within our database. So roughly 2 million nonprofit records. We need to utilize the search filter sidebar here on the left of the page to add filters to create our target search segment. KaziQ has over 460 searchable filters. By default, we will display some of the most commonly used filters by all of our customers for you with things like types, total revenues, location, and you can access all of the available filters within this advanced search button here. You can find filters by searching for them by name or even value. And you can also look for filters under this filter categories dropdown and selecting the different options there. We'll come back to this advanced search option here a little bit later on. First, let's start off with adding a qualitative filter. We'll work with a few different types of filters today, including qualitative, quantitative, and even text filters. So say my target market search is just arts and cultures organizations, as well as health organizations. So KaziQ's types filter here is a categorical filter. You'll notice here, if we start typing in health, we'll have our health organizations value pop up. And we can add an additional value to one filter as well. And it looks like arts, cultures, and humanities was already displayed for me as a value. So I'm going to go ahead and check that off. So with this filter, we're looking for health organizations or arts and culture organizations in the KaziQ database. Next, let's add a quantitative filter. Maybe my minimum revenue threshold for my target market arts and health organizations is $1 million and above in annual revenue. So within total revenues here, I'm going to select $1 million and above. All right, and you'll see here as we continue to add filters, the number of organizations in our search results will continue to decrease. Let's take a look at location. So maybe my target market is just the DC metro area. And I also have a team in Florida, for example. So let's take a look at DC or the state of Florida. So we're down to about 1,400 organizations. Now I'm going to get back into that advanced search. So I'm going to come back down to advanced search here on the left of the page. And maybe another target criteria for me is fundraising event information, both the types of fundraising events that the organization is throwing throughout the year, as well as percents and how well those fundraising events are doing from an income standpoint. So let's see here if we can find something for fundraising event income. All right, let's take a look at all income from fundraising events. All right, so you can see here, we are in the all income from fundraising events search filter. I have a couple different metric options now too. So value will be the raw monetary value. This is what we did with our total revenues filters a few moments ago. But maybe I want to get even more specific with the type of filter that I'm adding here. So maybe I want to take a look at the percent of revenues. And for income from fundraising events, my target organizations get at least 15% of their annual revenue from their fundraising events. So I'm going to select that percent of revenues option, and I'm going to input, and then I will input 15 here in the minimum value. All right. And next, maybe I really do well with organizations that are throwing certain types of fundraising events. So let's come back to our little search all filters and values section up top. Events, and then maybe we'll have something for fundraising events name. Perfect. So this is a CosIQ text filter. With our text filters, you can use Boolean operators to look for individual keywords or phrases in the fields. So for example, I can input something like this: golf or race or run or walk or dinner. So CosIQ is going to look for these organizations that are throwing golf events, race and run events, walk events, dinner events for this specific section of the tax form. Specifically, this one is Schedule G. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to add filter. Cool. And now you can see here on the right, these are all my current filters. And let's go ahead and show the results. So my current search yields 24 organizations. So we've dwindled that down quite a bit from the 2 million that we started off with. You can see all of our filters up top that we've added. I always like to advise customers to save their target searches as well, right? We did a really good job creating this search. Let's go ahead and save it so we can easily access it if we need to come back to it within CosIQ. You can save your target searches by selecting this little save box at the top right. You can give your your search a name. I like to give it a name to just remind me what is included. So maybe here I want to say target arts or health orgs in DC/Florida. There's a couple different options within the save organization search page. So you can tag the search results to the organization profile. So this essentially will display the name of the organization search on the organization profiles that belong to the save search. We'll get into that a little bit later today. And then you can monitor your search for updates. So CosIQ is constantly updating with new information that we have. So when you're monitoring your save search, you will receive notifications on changes to your save search results. And then our enterprise customers will have the option to share their searches with colleagues. So once we've chosen the appropriate selections, I'm going to hit save here. You can see we've successfully saved our search. And I'll show you quickly from our CosIQ dashboard where you can access your saved searches. So I'm back in that dashboard page. Again, this is that first page that we saw when we access our CosIQ account. On the left here, there's a searches selection, save searches. Here's our target arts search that we just created. And then since we are monitoring it, you'll notice updates below here. We also email you these updates. And if I want to pick up right where we left off, I'm going to select Open in Search Interface. Next, let's talk about how we can download and export lists in bulk from CosIQ. There are a few different ways to do it. Today, we are going to start with CosIQ's Search Export tool. To access the export tool, you just need to click this export button in the middle of the page. The first step of the export process is to tell the system what we want to export. And I should point out, you'll notice that we're only exporting information on the 24 organizations that match our target search criteria that we just put together. So with the what to export options, you'll notice we can select just organization information, personnel with organization details information, as well as historic information with this last 5 years of organization details option. Right now, I'm just going to do an organization details export. I'll promise a little bit later on, we'll go through a export process that includes organization data and contact data. Most CosIQ users are going to export directly to CSV files, but if you are utilizing CosIQ's API Salesforce integration, you'll have an option to go directly to Salesforce here. If you have questions on our Salesforce integration, please reach out and we'll be happy to answer them. Today, I'm going to go directly to that CSV spreadsheet. At the bottom of the what step, there's two sections that are related with our which records to include and remembered exported records. So this is all about record duplication. Within this remembered exported records section here, if you give and enter a name, you're telling CosIQ to remember all of the organization records and data that is included in our report that we're about to generate. This comes in handy for subsequent reports. So for example, CosIQ's database is constantly updating. So you'll notice here, you'll have an option if you're remembering your exports to only include updated or new values since the last time you downloaded a remembered report. Alternatively, if you're doing target market searching maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now, and maybe there's some overlapping results, you'll have the option to exclude records from previously remembered exports to prevent from re-downloading any information that you've already downloaded. Just allows you to stay a little bit more organized with what you're exporting from CosIQ. So maybe today I want to give this a quick name to tell the system to remember it. Target organizations, and I'll give it the date. All right. The next step of the export process is to choose the organization data that we want to include in the report. And we're going to include this information as columns in our export report. So you'll notice this change columns option here on the right of the page. If we select change columns, you'll notice on the left, we'll be able to choose the fields that we want to select as columns here on the right. For the most part, any of CosIQ's 460 organization fields can be added to your export reports. So what I like to do here is once I've chosen fields that are relevant for me, I'll go ahead and set them as defaults as well below. That way, every time I come into CosIQ and run our export report, I have my defaults selected already. But let's go ahead and choose a couple relevant ones. And we can remove a few that we don't need for this instance. All right, within the choose fields here on the left, a couple of different ways to find the fields that we want. Common will display some of the most commonly used fields. All will have that same field category breakdown, and then you can search for fields as well. So maybe we want to go ahead and take a look at that all income from fundraising events field. We'll add it as a monetary value. Percent of revenues, we'll know it's going to be at least greater than 15% because we added that as a search filter earlier on. And then let's take a look at fundraising event name. All right, there's that. But I think you get the idea here. Any of CosIQ's fields can be chosen here on the left. You move them over and select them as your columns here on the right. And then you can always set defaults as well. So let's come to next confirmation. The confirm step just overviews our selection. What we're exporting, the columns of data. If you need to change anything, you can select these little modify links and it will take you right back to those previous steps. And once this looks good, we'll go ahead and we'll create our spreadsheet here by selecting create spreadsheet. The system will start processing. Got a couple pop-ups here, but when we're ready to download the file, we can select download file here on the right of the page. We also will include the CSV file of your report and send it directly to your email address associated with the license. All right, so next I'm going to talk about how you can download data with CosIQ's table tool. Before I get there, I actually should mention with these CSV files that we just generated, a lot of CosIQ customers are taking that and taking that information, loading it up into their CRMs, sharing those details with their colleagues. So now let's get into the table tool. The search table tool is super helpful for comparing data points for the organizations that are matching your target search, right? You can see we're still just looking at the 24 organizations that match our target search criteria. Just like the search export tool, we can customize any of the data columns here as well. So for in this instance, we need to choose customize columns here. We'll add a few different columns this time. Maybe we want to take a look at accounting fees. Maybe we want to see the tax preparer firm that's signing off on the organization's 990. And then let's see where these are located by city and state. And then same thing as we saw with the export tool, you can always set columns as defaults here. Let's go ahead and update our columns. One thing that's really neat with the table tool here is you can always sort organizations by quantitative column header too, by just selecting the appropriate column name. And then when you're ready to download your table to Excel, you can select download table here and download spreadsheet, and CosIQ will process the download for you, and you'll be able to go ahead and download the report from your computer. Those are the two main ways that you can download and export lists in bulk from CosIQ. As mentioned a little bit later on, we'll talk about how we can export contact details as well. Next, let's discuss how you can use CosIQ to research organizations in depth. This use case becomes relevant when, for example, an inbound or another opportunity comes across your desk and you want to learn as much as you can about the nonprofit to see if the organization is going to be a good fit for your company, understand if they can afford your products and services, learn who they're already working with, things like that. CosIQ's organization's profiles are where you want to go to conduct research on an individual organization. You can access organization profiles from a few different ways within CosIQ. You can access profiles right within the list view here by selecting the organization's names. You can access the profiles within the table tool. You can access profiles from other organization profiles. And if you know exactly which organization you want to research, you can get to their corresponding CosIQ profile page utilizing the smart search box at the top of the CosIQ search interface. So for example, today, let's take a look at a decently sized food bank in the Cincinnati metro area called Freestore. All right, so I've typed in the name of the organization that I want to research, and I'm going to choose the Open the Freestore Bank option here. CosIQ directs me and takes me to the corresponding profile page for the selected organization. So at the top of the profile here, we'll start off with some high-level information with EIN, the name of the nonprofit. The information here in the gray, these are what we call our quick fields. Cool thing about these quick fields, they're all customizable. So I like to advise customers to bring the most relevant quantitative or qualitative data points to the very tops of the page with these quick fields. You can customize your quick fields from this little settings button here on the right. You choose the fields here on the left, and then you move them over to the selected section here on the right. Once you choose quick fields on one CosIQ organization profile, they'll become the defaults on every one that you access. So for example, maybe you're an accounting firm. It looks like here we already have accounting fees displayed as a quick field, so we understand what the organization is spending on tax and audit. But maybe we want to understand, okay, which CPA firm is putting together the organization's 990s that we're researching? So we can come over to the choose the field section here on the left. We can find fields a few different ways, including a all breakdown by subcategory. And then you can search for fields as well with this little search icon. So if we want to understand the CPA firm putting together the organization's 990, we need to go ahead and add CosIQ's tax preparer firm field. So I'm going to select that option and I'm going to add it as a quick field. Another example, maybe we're a professional fundraising organization and we want to know what the nonprofits that we're researching are spending for a third-party fundraising council. We could add a expense field for that. So we can come into CosIQ on the left here, we can select all. This drop down, you'll notice an expenses fee for service subcategory. And the field we want to add is this professional fundraising fees. So again, this is what the organization is spending on third-party fundraising council throughout the year. I'm going to select it as a quick field. Once I've chosen the appropriate quick fields that I want displayed on all profiles that I enter in CosIQ, I just need to save my selections here at the bottom. And you'll notice the system updates accordingly with the tax preparer firm information and that professional fundraising fees fee for service expense field. Moving down here, we'll have a financial summary of revenues, expenses, assets, and liabilities for the organization coming from the most recent available tax form that CosIQ has from the IRS. Below that, there'll be a brief description of the entity. And then you can learn more about the organization by viewing a detailed description here as well. On the right, there's a update history log with just some of the most recent changes to the organization's profile. We'll show a more complete and comprehensive update history section below in a second. And then on the left here, there's a couple categorical tags based off the types, issues, and characteristics that CosIQ classifies the organization by. You can see which specific peer list a given organization belongs to by this Your List Members section. And then the Your Search Matches, will display the names of the saved searches that the organization belongs to. So remember, we saved that search a little bit earlier. This one that we're using as an example today, this individual Freestore Food Bank does not belong to that same saved search, but you can see the other saved searches that it does belong to. As we scroll down here, the vast majority of data for a given organization is going to live within these data tabs. We'll get through all of them here today as well to highlight what you can learn from these sections. So the summary sections will give you access to key performance indicators. Just like with the quick fields, all of this information is customizable. So you can bring the most relevant quantitative information here to understand changes in things like revenues, expenses, number of employees, specific fee for services. So you can see how those thresholds have been changing over the past 5 years or so. Below here, some additional general information, categorization about the organization you're researching. Within program areas, you'll get a good breakdown of the most important areas of the organization's activities that's disclosed within their 990 tax form. The next one here is the funding section. So the funding data tab is going to be all about where the organization is getting their money from. We'll have granular information on fundraising events that the organization throws throughout the year. This comes directly from Schedule G of the main Form 990. If we have identified foundation grants that the given nonprofit receives, you'll notice here there's a grants from foundations and other nonprofits section below. We'll also display federal funding information when we do have that available, whether it's coming from A133 single audits or also the US spending website. We bring federal funding information through those two data sources. All right. On the other end, within grant making, if the organization makes grants to other nonprofits throughout the year, they'll have a grant making data tab. The very top of the grant making section will provide an activity overview for the most recent year, a breakdown of the types of nonprofits the organization is giving to and some of their general characteristics. And then below will be a grant list from the most recent year of grant making activity that we have for the nonprofit that we're researching. You can understand where they gave the money to, what it was for, the amount, and then these details section will also show any historic information from the grant maker and the grant recipient that we do have. See if this one has any, doesn't look like they have any historic giving relationship here, but when they do, you would notice multiple grants from previous years. The next data section that we're going to take a look at is financials. First thing that you'll notice with the financial section is this is where you can access any of the raw 990 data or 990 PF data that we have within CAUSE-IQ. You can download the corresponding tax forms with these PDF links here on the right. And then below the 990 section, we'll have the 2 most recent years of digitized financial information broken down for you by a couple different sections, including revenues, assets, expenses, liabilities, and we'll also include that percent change column for you. And to change the section, you simply just need to choose the appropriate section here. Next, let's take a look at the personnel data tab. The personnel data tab is where we'll display all the identified people that we have found working at the given organization, as well as sitting on the board, as you can see here below. Within the personnel section, we'll display any of the direct contact information, including emails, direct phone numbers, LinkedIn profiles, and compensation details that we have for the individuals listed. The vendors data tab here will give you access to all the vendor information that we have found this nonprofit working with. So we get vendor information from a couple different data sources. So we'll display most recent vendor information. You can understand how many years a given vendor has been working with the organization that you're researching. There's an all vendor section up top. And then below here, we'll have a couple sub vendor sections, including professional fundraisers, an understanding of, for this instance, the A133 single audits that the organization is getting conducted. So these are required for nonprofits that receive more than $750,000 annually in federal funding. And we can learn more about those audits here within the details tab. We can see the tax preparer firm that the organization is using, general technologies and IT products they use to operate. So the vendor section, again, is where you'd want to come to understand which companies and service providers the organization that you're researching is working with. The next section that we'll take a look at is employee benefit plans. So if you offer some sort of retirement plans and that type of information is relevant for you, the employee benefit plan section will give you access to the Form 5500 retirement plan data that CASIQ is bringing in for the individual organization. So you can understand an overview of the plans offered, how many people are active and participate in the plan, as well as the service providers that help the nonprofit put the plan together. The next data tab here is related entities. So this information is coming directly from Schedule R of the Form 990. This information is all about any other nonprofit or corporation that has some sort of legal relationship with the given nonprofit that you're researching. So you'll get a breakdown of the related entity, the relationship type, location of the related entity, as well as transactions between the two. The next data tool here, data tab, is data update history. So we saw a little summary of this at the top of the organization profile, but this is going to be a more comprehensive data update history tab. As mentioned before, CASIQ system is constantly updating. So this data update history tab lets you understand the most recent changes and updates to the organization's profile that you're researching. Each data source does have a different update frequency, of course. I'd say on average, an organization's profile in CASIQ is updated between 5-6 times a year. The similar nonprofit section here below is the last data tab, as you'll notice. These will be a few CASIQ classification similar nonprofit entities based off things like size, expenses to compensation for employees, categories. And if you want to, right, you can constrain it to location as well. So a bunch of other large food banks are in this similar nonprofit section for the Freestore Food Bank that we're researching. If you wanted to open up these similar nonprofits in the CASIQ organization search interface to work with them, right, we have that option for you here below. So another way to find additional opportunities based off an individual organization that could be a good fit for you. At the individual profile level, there are 2 downloadable reports. So you'll notice a download button here at the top. The first is a high-level PDF one-pager. The PDF one-pager is essentially going to be a snapshot of the organization that we're researching, right? So we'll have our Freestore Food Bank one-pager, financial summary that looks just like what we saw in the profile level, the summary description. These KPIs are customizable, so these will respect any of the KPIs that you're choosing to display in the profile, and then some more high-level general information and contact details here on the right. So PDF one-pagers, super handy, for example, if you are having a prospecting meeting and you want everyone on your team to have something to reference during that meeting, the PDF one-pager is a great handout sheet for those types of meetings. I'm going to get back into the profile. And the other download report that you'll notice here is this detailed Excel report. I'm going to download this detailed Excel report. It's going to be much more comprehensive than the PDF one-pager, and let's go ahead and take a look. Here's a look at the CASIQ detailed organization report for the nonprofit that we were just researching on the CASIQ website, Freestore Food Bank. These detailed Excel reports will package just about everything that you see on those CASIQ organization profiles into one nice Excel report for you, with corresponding data worksheets here below that we'll get to. So you can see the very first worksheet that we're taking a look at is the overview worksheet. This will provide high-level information like your customized quick fields, descriptive information, your customized KPIs, as well as some general information and categorization details. The program areas worksheet will look very similar to the program areas data tab that we saw on the profile level. Right, these are going to be all about the most important areas of the organization's activities throughout the year that they're disclosing on their Form 990 tax form. The funding worksheet here is going to be about where the organization gets foundation grants. You can see here the grants from foundations and other nonprofits that the Freestore Food Bank has and does receive. The grant making worksheet is going to be the opposite side. So these are going to be the grants that the Freestore Food Bank has made for the most recent year of grant making data that we have. The financials worksheet will be a digitized financial report for this example, Free Stirred Food Bank, for the past about 10 years or so of financial data, broken down comprehensively for you. A lot of good information in here. The personnel worksheet. This is where you'll see those identified staff and board that we saw within the profile page. Contact information is displayed here. Compensation information is displayed here. And some more granular Schedule J information will be next. So Schedule J, again, is more details on the individual's compensation that are employed by the organization that we're researching. The next worksheet will be that vendors worksheet. So this corresponds with the vendor information that we saw at the profile page. The tax preparer firm, professional fundraisers, all vendors, and related entities here. This will be that Schedule R information that we saw within the profile page, all about other organizations that have some sort of legal relationship with the nonprofit that you're researching. These downloaded Excel reports, again, are super helpful to learn as much as you can about a given entity, especially if you need all the data that CosIQ has. You can download these reports. You can forward them along to your colleagues to share some of the findings that you have found with the CosIQ data. Super helpful as you are conducting in-depth research on individual organizations within CosIQ to see if they're going to be a good fit for your company. Next, let's discuss how you can use CosIQ to find key personnel and contact information. If you're using CosIQ for business development and prospecting, you're going to want contact details so you can reach out to your target market nonprofits to introduce your company's products or services. There are two main ways to access key personnel and contact information within CosIQ. One way is with our search export tool, and the other way is going to be the personnel data tab that we saw within the organization profile when we were researching Freestone Food Bank just a moment ago. Let's take a look at how we can generate a report that includes contact information and organization information with CosIQ's search export tool. I'm going to access the export tool here by simply selecting the export tab. You can see we're exporting information on 241 organizations that match our above target search criteria. The first step now is to choose and tell the system the type of export that we want to generate. So earlier in this video, when we were talking about exporting lists from CosIQ, we chose to run an organization details export that gave us just organization information. Now, if we want contact information to accompany that organization information in our report, we need to choose personnel with organization details. We're going to export directly to a CSV spreadsheet, and we do have the same option to remember our export that we talked about earlier in this video. But now, since we are generating a report that include contact information, if you tell the system to remember this report, not only is it going to remember all the organizations that belong to the export report, but it will also remember the contact records. All right, now we are in the personnel step of the export process. So this is where we're going to tell CosIQ the types of contacts that we want to include in our export report. So CosIQ classifies contacts by position levels and position functions, essentially how high up they're at the given organization and what the day-to-day responsibility looks like for the individual. You'll notice a drop-down here, which will just display all of the options available for both the levels and functions. And you're utilizing these selections to query CosIQ's contact database. So for example, for the levels and functions that I had preloaded here, we could expect titles like CEO, Executive Director, Director of Finance, Chief Information Officers, COO type personas. Maybe I want to also add some board folks too. So if I come to levels, I can choose the board option as well. Within functions, maybe I care about development personnel for organizations in my target market search. So what I could do is start typing in development, and you'll notice here I have the development option. So that Chief Development Officer would now be included in the export report when we have them identified. Contacts per organization here is next. This is telling the system the max number of contacts you want to include in your export report for a given organization, assuming that we have more than the selected number here, matching all of our titles and levels function constraints, as well as our contact information option constraints. So again, this is just capping the max number of contacts that you want from one given organization in your export report. And we'll always export out the highest ranking individuals first as well. I'm gonna bump this up to 5. Contact information options. So this is where you can constrain contacts in the report based off the available contact data. So if you just want individuals with email addresses available to be included in your report, you can do that by selecting the second option, only return personnel email addresses. Same option with direct phone numbers. Just need to remember, the more constraints you add here, the smaller pool of results the system will return. And we can still include the direct phone numbers that we have in our export report, but it's up to you if you want to say must have them or must not. But we can still include organization data as well for the organizations that match our search that we don't have classified and matching personnel meeting all of our selections. And you can always preview your personnel matching results as well within this preview button. So we're getting VP of Ops, CFOs, Director of Annual Giving, because we added that development option, board members. So it looks like we are getting the right types of individuals. The next step here is the column step again. So this is again where we're going to choose the data that we want to include in the export report. You do this now for both organizations and contact information. So it follows the same process that we've done a few times here today, right? You come to change columns, you choose the fields that you want from the left, and then you move them over to the selected columns here on the right. And you can always set your column defaults as well. Below here for personnel detail columns, same option, change columns, choose the fields, and you move them over. This instance looks like I included LinkedIn's, which was great. If I needed compensation information or anything like that, that would also be a choice that I could add as a individual contact column. All right, once we've chosen our appropriate data columns, we'll come to the confirm step. This again overviews our selections, what we're exporting, the people selections, the columns of data. And once this looks good, we're gonna go ahead and we'll create our spreadsheet. The system will start processing the export. We can download the file when it's ready. And let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the export file now. All right, here is the report that we just generated with CosIQ's search export tool that contains organization information and contact details. You'll notice on the left of the report, we're gonna start with organization information. You'll see some duplicate organization records because we chose up to 3 unique contacts per a given organization. As we scroll to the right of the report, we'll see all of the data columns that we chose during the export process are included. And the unique contact information is going to start here in column M with the individual's names, their job title, email addresses. We said must have emails, so every person in this report will have an identified email address, direct phone numbers, as well as LinkedIn's. Many CosIQ users that are utilizing the search export tool to generate these types of bulk reports that include organization data and contact data are taking these CSV files. They're following their CRM or marketing automation software's data loading process to get this information into their systems. So their marketing and sales teams has access to the data that they need to start their outbound campaigns. All right, let's jump back into the CosIQ website to revisit that personnel tab on an individual organization's profile to remind ourselves where we can see direct contact information for one nonprofit. And we'll also take a look at personnel profile pages. We're back in CosIQ's organization search interface. And now we're going to get back to an organization profile page to view where you can see the personnel information for a given nonprofit. So I'm just here in the list view. As a reminder, you can access profile pages wherever you see an organization's name linked. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And let's choose one from our search. We'll take a look at the Holocaust Museum in Houston. So back to the profile page. As a reminder, this is where we'll have all the information on the one given organization that you want to research. And as we scroll down, the personnel data tab here is where we can view all of CosIQ's identified staff and board information for the given nonprofit. So we'll see a list of key personnel, the board information will be below, and the direct contact information when available is also displayed here, including email address, phone number, LinkedIn's. If we want to access an individual's profile page to see all the information that CauseIQ has on a given person, we can find their profile by selecting their name. So let's take a look at Tamara. The CauseIQ organization, the CauseIQ personnel profile pages will include the individual's title, the organization that they work for, the organization's primary location, email addresses when we have it, LinkedIn profiles when we have it, direct phone numbers, as well as the most recent data date, which will indicate the most recent date of data that we have received, confirming or reconfirming the individual still working at the given organization. We do run our email addresses through a third-party email verification system every 90 days or so. So this most recent data date does have to be a data source outside of that email verification check. We have compensation information below here. So again, another really good spot to look up and find direct contact information and key personnel details while you are utilizing CauseIQ. All right, next, let's discuss how you can use CauseIQ to conduct market research. I'm going to get back into the CauseIQ organization search interface quickly. All right, we're back from the search interface. So when you're looking to grow your business, it really is imperative to understand your target market entities, learn which competitors are already selling into your target markets. CauseIQ has a few features that I'll highlight today that really help you do just that. So we're back in the organization search interface with a new search, roughly 2 million nonprofit records. So for this example today, maybe we know that we're interested in exploring nonprofits in the states of Washington or Oregon, and they have to be 501c3s with at least $1 million in revenue. So let's go ahead and start putting together our target search, and then we'll take a look at a few features to better understand this organization segment. So let's go ahead and we'll start with our location filter. So we want just Washington-based nonprofits or Oregon. We said these organizations have to have at least $1 million in annual revenue. So total revenues, $1 million and above. And then we also have the 501c3 characteristics that we want to add. So on my search filter sidebar, I don't see 501c3 here. So what I need to do is come to advanced search. I can start typing in 501c3, and we'll notice CauseIQ prompts me to utilize our 501c type filter with the C3 selection. And let's add this filter, and we'll show the results. All right, so we have our 3 filters added up top. We're looking at about 4,000 nonprofits that are C3 entities with $1 million above in the states of Washington or Oregon. The 2 features that I want to highlight today are CauseIQ's search table tool and the search analyze tool. We're going to take a look at the table tool first. We did explore this tool when talking about exporting list earlier in this video, but I wanted to re-highlight this because this tool really is helpful to compare individual data points for the organizations that match our search. As we can see here, any of CauseIQ's data fields can be added as columns here. So I'm going to come to customize columns. I'm going to clear these out here quickly. And we've done this a few times here now, but we're going to choose a few relevant columns and then we'll move them over to the right. So for example, maybe I want to see total revenues and percentage of growth and annual growth with revenues. And I'm also interested in learning what these organizations are spending on tax and audit. So I'll take a look at accounting fees. And let's see which CPA firm is putting together the organization's 990. I'm going to change these columns. And now I have these super granular data points for the 4,000 organizations in my new target search. So quickly comparing individual data points, the table tool allows you to do just that. And if needed, you can download the table to Excel here. The Analyze tool that I'm introduced next is going to be more helpful for summary trends and stats. So still following along with that same theme with conducting market research. Just like in the table tool that we just saw, any of the CauseIQ's quantitative or qualitative fields can be added to this analysis report so we can understand specific trends. I'm going to customize fields. We'll keep revenues there. We'll keep assets there. We'll get a breakdown by state, but maybe also we want a breakdown by metro area. So let's do metro area. We'll take a look at number of employees. Maybe we want to understand the types of organizations that are in here. So let's take a look at types. And same thing, we can search for individual field values. So if we want to add that tax preparer firm field one more time to get a summary value of the top CPA firms used. And maybe I'm also a software company. I care what IT products these organizations are using. So CosIQ has a field called IT products used. Let's go ahead and add that field and we'll get a summary of the software solutions we have identified. So again, once we're ready to, once we've chosen the appropriate values, let's go ahead and change fields. With the quantitative information like total revenues, we'll provide the average, median, subtotal for the group. And again, I should have pointed out this earlier, but we're only analyzing the organizations that match our search criteria. A minimum value here is going to be just at that $1 million threshold because we have that as an additional, as a filter already. Percentile values, maximum values, and these bar graphs let you easily see where the majority of these organizations fall with respect to that selected quantitative data field. You can add additional filters here too by selecting bar graphs and choosing add filter. So same type of breakdown with total assets, state breakdown. So majority of these organizations are located in Washington. Metro area breakdown. No surprise here, the two top metro areas are going to be the Seattle metro area as well as the Portland metro area. And just like we saw with adding additional filter with the quantitative field, you can add additional qualitative filters as well. So from a metro area standpoint, if we just want Seattle-based entities, we'll check off the Seattle, Tacoma metro option and add that filter. Another quantitative breakdown based off number of employees. Median value for this group is 28 employees. Here is a breakdown of CosIQ's types field to just understand what types of organizations are going into this search. Super helpful to include, again, individual types of nonprofits that you want to target down on. You can add additional filters by selecting field values, and you can even exclude field values too that you want to remove from your target search. You can open up the value options here. Tax preparer firms, so the majority of these organizations are getting their taxes done by Clifton Larson Allen, Clark Nuber, Moss Adams, McDonald Jacobs. And if you want to see these individual client lists, you can choose the CPA firm and choose add filter. And the IT products breakdown again. So here are the top software solutions that we have found the individual organization working with. And just like we've discussed before, you can add additional filters too. So if you just want to take a look at organizations that utilize MailChimp, choose the MailChimp option and hit add filter. Within the Search Analyze tool, there is a download functionality. So at the top of the report here, you'll notice here, you'll have this download report button. CosIQ will package this information into a nice Excel file for you. That way you can share your research with your colleagues. So another really great way to collaborate CosIQ with your team. All right, well, yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If we can ever help with anything, please let the CosIQ know. You can reach our team from this little orange chat widget at the bottom of the screen and drop your questions here, and we'll get back to you in a few minutes. Have a great rest of your day.